Hi, we're going to talk about travel and transport. First, we'll talk about the words for different types of transport. We'll also talk about verbs that we can use to talk about traveling, the difference between some commonly confused words, as well as some collocations and idioms. So let's get started. First, we have an aeroplane, as we call it in England. Airplane is what they say in America. Both places shorten it to plane. This is a helicopter. You might not commonly fly in a helicopter. I've never flown in a helicopter, but you might need to describe one if you see it. We have a bus or a coach. A bus is used to travel inside a city, from one part of the city to another. A coach is a lot more comfortable, and we use it to travel from one city to another. Next, we have a train. This here is a type of train that is used inside a city, quite commonly on a road where cars also drive as well. This is a tram. A train or a tram that goes under the ground is what we call in Britain an underground, or in London we call it the tube. In other cities or countries they might call it a metro or even a subway. We have a lorry. Lorry is this big vehicle. In America, they call it a truck. In Britain, a truck for us is a smaller type of lorry. And we have a motorcycle, which can be shortened to motorbike, and a bicycle or a bike. Next, we have a car. If we pay somebody to drive us somewhere in a car, it's called a taxi or a cab. Taxi is British English, cab is American English. Next, if we're traveling on water, we could go by boat, or if it's really big, a ship, or if we're traveling from one side of the water to another to get from one part of a place to another, we would take a ferry. You can take bikes or cars onto ferries usually as well. Marine, it goes underwater. You might not have been on one before, but it's useful to know the word. This is a sailing boat or a yacht. Usually these are quite fancy. And I'm sure you've seen a scooter. Nowadays we have electric ones. They are called e-scooters. Verbs that we use to describe different methods of transport. We can say go by, followed by the method of transport, like go by train, go by coach, go by bus, go by car. Get in or out of a car or a taxi, normally. You could, if you're the driver, get in or out of a lorry or a truck. But any other method of transport, we get on or off. Get on or off a bus, a train, a tram, anything else. We fly by just an aeroplane or a helicopter. Perhaps in the future, we'll fly by flying cars. Who knows? We travel in a car or a taxi, perhaps a lorry. We travel on any other method of transport. Travel by any method of transport. Sail on, so this is on water. So sail on a boat, a ship, a ferry, a yacht. get to a place by a method of transport. For example, get home by bus, get to work by car. Take a is usually followed by a method of public transport, like take a bus, take a ferry, take a train, take a taxi. Drive, this is when you are controlling the vehicle. So you drive a car. Maybe if you're a lorry driver, you drive a lorry. Operate is usually a big machine, like a tram or a train. You operate these vehicles. Ride, you can ride a motorbike, ride a bike, ride a scooter. Get a lift means that you ask somebody to take you somewhere. Somebody that you know takes you somewhere in their car. Whereas hitch a ride or hitchhike is when you stop a car in the street, you don't know the people in it, and you ask them to take you somewhere. And usually you don't pay them. Walk or go on foot. We don't go by foot. This is a common mistake. We go on foot, but we go by any other method of transport. Now, how long it takes is a common question to talk about traveling. We can say, for example, it takes me 15 minutes to get to work on the bus. So you say how long it takes to get to a certain place using a certain method of transport. For example, it takes about 2 hours to drive to London. So it's, again, how long, to go where, and how. We know how, because drive, that implies car. Train takes less than 2 hours to get to London. Here, we use the train as the subject. So instead of saying it takes less than 2 hours to get to London on the train, which we can say, we use the transport as the subject. The train takes. If we say it takes, we're talking in general. Doesn't take long to get to the town. Here we have a negative sentence. It takes about 5 minutes to walk to the bus stop. So lots of different examples to show how to use this construction. Now, travel, trip, and journey are words that are commonly confused. So let's look at some examples. I sometimes travel to America to visit my in-laws. Long distance travel can be tiring. So the word travel can be used as a verb, like in this first sentence, or it can be used as an uncountable noun, like in the second sentence. But trip and journey are both countable nouns. For example, the journey to America has 4 legs. The journey, it's countable. Has 4 legs, it means has 4 parts to it. We drive to the airport, that's the first part. We fly to Dublin, the second part. Then we fly to Seattle, the third part, and finally drive to their house, the 4th part. It's a long journey. We made 6 journeys to transport all of our things when we moved house. So that means we went from our old house to our new house 6 times to take all of our things. 6 journeys. Our last trip to America was before the pandemic, and we had a great time. So trip isn't just talking about the journey. So the journey is about the travel. going from one place to another, whereas the trip includes the journey as well as the time you spend there and then the journey back. Some common collocations now. We travel to a place, but we travel by a method of transport. We can take a trip. We can go on a trip. Be on a trip. So, for example, if someone is traveling now, you can say he is on a trip. You make a trip. Often, this is a short trip. Have a good trip. So we use this to say if you have a good time on your journey or on your during your travels. We can also use this to wish someone a good trip. Return from a trip means the same as come back from a trip. Arrange a trip, so that is to organize it, to book the trip is part of arranging it. And book a trip means to decide where and when you're going and to pay for the ticket. Cancel a trip. You've already booked it, but now you can't go, so you cancel it and try to get your money back. Extend a trip means to make it longer than you planned. For example, if my trip is for 1 week, but I decide to stay an extra 2 days, I change my return ticket and I extend the trip by 2 days. The opposite is if I have to come back 2 days early, I cut my trip short. A trip abroad means a trip in a different country to where you are living. A common mistake is to say a trip to abroad. We don't say that. A trip abroad. You go abroad, not go to abroad. We go on a journey. Make a journey. Or have a journey. Lots of different words to use here. We can say a journey takes a certain amount of time. For example, a journey from Nottingham to London takes about 2 hours. A journey from the UK to America takes about 10 hours on the flight, for example. You can be tired after a journey or be tired from a journey, especially if it's a long flight. A leg or a stage of a journey is the part of a journey, especially if it is in different sections. Set out on a journey means to begin, to start a journey. Some idioms now. To travel light or to pack light means to go on your trip with very little in your suitcase. You don't need much. To hit the road means to start your journey, usually by car, but not necessarily. Go off the beaten track means to go to a place where not many people live, a very rural area, perhaps. To catch the red eye means to take a plane late at night, so you are flying overnight. To break the journey means to stop on the way, to have a quick rest. maybe to stretch your legs or go to the toilet. To be on track means to be on time, to be according to your timetable. To go on a road trip means to go by car and drive around the country, maybe drive to some different cities, stay in a different place each night. And on your road trip, you might need to make a pit stop. That means to stop and fill your car up with petrol, or to stop and buy some snacks, have something to eat before you continue on your journey. To hit the beach means simply to go to the beach. A backseat driver. People don't tend to like backseat drivers. They are not the driver, but they tell the driver how they should be driving. It's very annoying. Also annoying is a Sunday driver. This driver drives very slowly, and so people driving behind get a bit annoyed and need to overtake. To be on the home stretch means to be on the last part of the journey, heading home. To have itchy feet means you really want to travel. You really want to go somewhere. And finally, to set up camp is to stop and put up your tent and get ready to spend the night outdoors. I hope that has helped you. Thank you for watching.